Okay, so I'm sure we can come up with something else. I think I might have missed one. I can pull it from one of the other
This is more
for
than
a
enough.
teaching plan.
We're good.
Yeah, I can find one anyway. Okay, do you want to talk about the first one? So here's the reality. Maybe you've discovered that your puppy's starting to make more mistakes, or you have a dog that only responds when you are shaking a bag of treats. You know, you're holding food in your hand. And this is so common, I think, that everyone should think about this. And it comes down to your timing. Timing is critical in dog training. And let's talk a little bit about like the symptoms you might see if you have bad timing.
Yeah, I think a lot of times if we have delivering back, I guess maybe we should tell you what good timing is, because maybe we should start there. So, when it comes to timing, when we use that word, when we're talking about dog training, we specifically mean how long we take to give our dog feedback, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. And dogs do have a pretty specific learning time frame in which they actually go, oh, you mean this? And it's literally just 1 second. And that can be really challenging for a lot of people, because I think it's pretty normal for us to just assume that dogs sort of learn the same, in the same time frame that a human does. And sometimes we can get frustrated because we think that we're, being clear, but because we're not delivering the feedback quick enough for the dog, that sometimes can be a large reason why there's a disconnect between what your dog's doing and then what you want them to do. So that timing is really, really important. The other thing that is tricky about timing is that, when we think about that, often we think about, telling our dog when they're right or wrong within the right time frame, which, I mentioned that. But it also can be a lot more detailed than that. And I think one of the biggest things that we see people struggle with, I think you may have mentioned this before, is things like puppies or dogs being dependent on food, for example. Yeah. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to use food in my training because I don't want my dog to be dependent on it. I don't want them just to listen to me because I have treats. And we love when people say that, because we don't want that for you either. But what happens is people shy away from using things like treats in their training because they actually don't know enough about timing and how to actually use the treats in a way that it amplifies it. It makes the behavior better. It motivates the dog. It gets the dog excited to do things for us, rather than making the dog become dependent on the food. So specifically what I mean is a lot of people get the timing wrong. They end up showing the dog the treats or bribing the dog with treats before asking them to do something. And I often use the example of, this sometimes works with husbands, and this is what works with my husband, is if I show him a cupcake or a chocolate bar or something sweet, because he has a big sweet tooth, and then I say, hey, sweetie, can you do this for me? There's probably 100% chance he's going to do that thing.
It's terribly Pavlovian. It works.
It was a lot of the time people do this with their dogs, and they don't realize that they're messing up the timing a little bit. They'll call their dog to them, and then they'll be having their hand in their bait bag, or they'll be reaching into their treat pouch for their treats, or they'll be shaking the cookie bin or whatever the thing is. And then when that hand isn't in their pouch, or that hand isn't, offering whatever they're going to be giving the dog is like, I don't really know what you have for me. So it's really important that we have good timing when we're delivering our dog's information, so that we don't become dependent on those things. The dog learns to listen because they like listening, and they're hopeful that they're going to get a reward, but they don't check out to see whether it's there at first. So that's one thing to do with timing in terms of the whole treat thing. Another thing that people have to be really careful about when it comes to timing is when they speak versus when they show the food, or when they use the leash. And this is another thing I really noticed specifically with a loose leash walk training. A lot of people don't even realize it, but they're just pulling the dog around on the leash and keeping a tight leash, and they're not giving the dog any information. Now, at McCann Dogs, our ultimate goal when we're training a dog to listen really well is that we want them to learn to listen to our voices without the crutch or the need to have a leash, to have a treat, any of those things. But we use those tools, we use leashes, we use treats, we use toys, we use play, all of those things initially to build the value, to build the excitement, which we'll talk about in a second. for listening, but what people don't realize is that if you're pulling the dog around on the leash and you're not also providing them good information with your voice prior to doing that, your dog's never going to learn the word. So it's really important that if you do, in the end, want your dog to be a good listener, you have to remember to have good timing. I need to make sure that if I'm going to ask my dog to do something, I'm not also, just like showing them a treat, I'm not also pulling them on their leash or doing something physical at the same time. Otherwise, your dog's not going to learn to listen to your voice. And again, these are very, very small details that a lot of people either don't know about or they don't even know that they're doing. And it's one of my favorite things to work on when we're in classes teaching is something as subtle, something as small, seemingly small, as changing somebody's timing in which they're delivering information or giving a cue or showing a treat. That can turn things around unbelievably for a dog in terms of their ability to like problem solve or figure something out. So that timing is instrumental.
Well, here's the other thing. We talked a little bit in the pre-show about Funky Monkey, and a demonstration that you would often do is how simple it is to teach a dog to do something. And in your demo, whether it was like in front of a classroom of students or YouTube audience, or
I actually did it at my TED Talk.
That's right. Yeah,
well. That was stressful.
when you did the TED Talk. It's so interesting because it's all about timing. Cue, stimulus, reward. In that order. So you say the thing, you show the thing, and then you reward a successful completion of the thing. If you get those out of order, your dog gets confused. It's really, the way dogs learn, it's really important that you maintain good timing. Wait too long and the dog disconnects the cue with the stimulus. You're too quick and the stimulus is put in front of the dog too early, so they don't have a chance to think about what you're asking of them. So cue, stimulus, reward is really important regardless of the skill you're working on. Think about that. If you're struggling with a skill, your dog's just not learning something, think about your timing. This also, we're not just talking about luring with treats. We're also talking about when they make mistakes. So when your dog makes a mistake, you have 1 second. 1 second to give them information. Otherwise, they disconnect the ideas. So when they are digging in the yard, when they have an accident on the floor.
Or barking at something outside.
Right.
Whatever.
You have to catch them in the act. Because in an absence of information, if it feels good or if it tastes good, they're going to think that's the right thing because it's sort of this positive feedback that they receive from themselves. So it's really important that your timing is good, just as good when they're making a mistake, because sometimes that's the most important information you can give them. You can't do this. Stop doing that. Here, do this instead. Here's the alternative. Here's the other thing that I want you to do.
This is wrong, but here's what you could do next time to be right.
That's right, yeah. I just saw the chat going by and someone mentioned that they have a puppy, and it reminded me, we actually have our new puppy playbook in our store available as well. Puppy journal, sorry. In our store available online as well. I hope I didn't... We have all sorts of things in the works. And our puppy journal is the one that's available for people right now. We just all sorts of exciting things happening at mccanndogs.store. But if you have a puppy and you're working through training, check out the puppy training journal on Amazon. It is
It's good for helping keep you on track. It allows you to kind of track things. It allows you to make notes about how your training going. It's not a guide. It's not a guide. It's what gets measured gets improved. So it helps you document. Training journal that helps keep you accountable.
So handy. Anyway, it's available. With timing, when we're talking about house training, in that journal you can mark down when your puppy's going to the washroom, or
look for trends
when they're having accidents. Yeah. Totally. So timing is critical. Good stuff, bad stuff. You got to maintain good timing.
Be on time.
Yeah, that's right.
Be in time.
What's that? Be.
Aggressive. Be aggressive.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to be
That's
aggressive.
A baseball cheer.
Oh, okay.
We could use that tomorrow night.
That's true.
For the Blue Jays.
Blue Jays take on the Dodgers. That's right. Yeah. Speaking of value, the second thing that we want to talk about tonight with our 5 most common mistakes that people make is they have this misguided sense that their dog thinks they're valuable. And just because we feed them and love them and care about them so much doesn't necessarily, translate into them wanting to listen to us or them really understanding what our expectations are. People assume that their dog wants to listen, wants to learn. The reality is their dog just wants to do dog stuff and be a dog. And that's okay. That's why we're going to channel some of these
That's why you
behaviors.
have to train them.
100%. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why would your dog listen to you? Mm-hmm. What reasons are you giving them? Let's talk a little bit about building out value in your home when you have a dog in training.
Yeah, I kind of hinted at this a little bit earlier, but basically what we mean by this is there's lots of things that we want our dogs to do. Something as simple as, this isn't simple, but teaching your dog to come back to you when they're called, no matter the situation, no matter where they are or what they're distracted by. Does your dog understand that choosing you over chasing the deer in the forest, or, running across the road, or, whatever it might be, do they know that running back to you is a more valuable thing to do? And if they don't know, or if you're not sure, what have you done to create that value? And this is something, again, that we do a lot in our programs, is we really try and set the tone for the dog, that they learn that you are the most valuable thing, so that if and when the time comes that they get into a situation where they have to choose listening to you versus doing the doggy thing, which is chasing the thing, eating the thing, whatever it might be, they go, that looks really fun, but I have had hundreds and hundreds of repetitions of choosing this, and I know that that's rewarding. I know that's what I want to do. Therefore, the dog says, that looks cool, but I'm going to choose that because I know it's the sure thing. Right. So that's things like recalls. Same thing with walking. A lot of times I think people get puppies or dogs and they take them for a walk because that's what you do with a dog. And they don't realize that you actually have to train your dog how to walk. Walking at your side or even in your vicinity with having a loose leash is not a natural choice for a dog. Their natural choice is to pull, it's to be curious, it's to smell, it's to try to pick things off the ground, it's to look around at distractions. That's the natural, normal thing for a dog to do. And our job is to teach value for our left side. Our job is to teach value for looking at us when we ask, to teach value for sitting at our side when there's distractions around. And I think sometimes we get frustrated with our dogs, and when you really look at the amount of times you have actually trained your dog and taught your dog and put value on that thing, it really hasn't been enough. And what we're doing is we're putting our dogs into a situation where it is just too easy for them to do normal doggy things because they haven't had the repetition of value to learn maybe what a different choice and also better choice could be to them.
I want to get a sense of how old your dog is. Drop in the chat how many months old your dog is. If they're 2 years, it's 24 months, etc. I want to be able to speak to some of the problems specifically that you're having, but also give you some guidance in that sort of time frame, because what's interesting is it's not about the age, it's about the stage of learning. So a 2-year-old dog may be having the exact same problems that a 16-week-old puppy's having. So, but I'd like to sort of shape the conversation a little bit so that we're speaking to some of the things that you might be struggling with. Now, one thing that's really important as the dog gets a little bit older and they learn this foundation, you say this a lot. You say what you mean and mean what you say. Mm-hmm. This elevates your value so quickly. And what does it mean to you when you communicate, when you say what you mean and mean what you say?
It means a lot of things. I think one of the biggest things that we try to establish with our students is teaching them how to have an appropriate or high level of expectation for their dog. Because if you don't have expectations of what your dog should do and how much they should listen, it's very difficult to have follow through and say what you mean and mean what you say. You have to know what you mean before you can reinforce what you mean. So expectation is going to be really important. You need to have an idea of what behavior you would like your dog to do in that situation, and then either go back to what I just talked about. Have you actually taught your dog to do that thing, and is it appropriate for you to be expecting that thing yet? Or B, do they just need some follow through? Is this something where you're a repeater? Do you sound like a broken record? Do you ask for commands of your dog over and over and over and over again and then not ever do anything about it in terms of training or follow through. Dogs are really, really, really smart, and they can learn very quickly about situations, about listening in this situation, but not having to in that situation, about listening to this family member, but not that family member. And a lot of it has to do with the consistency that that person or that situation provides. And that comes down to saying what you mean and meaning what you say. And the most simple example that I give people, and this seems really dumb, but if you say sit, does your dog sit the first time you ask? Or do you have to say it multiple times? Or does it depend on the situation? Your dog probably can sit beautifully in the kitchen or in the living room, but can they sit quickly the first time that you ask when you're at a dog park? Can they sit quickly the first time you ask if you're on the edge of a street and somebody wants to stop and speak to you? And when your dog's excited, if you say sit, can they do it then? And if they don't listen, what do? Are we repeating ourselves? Are we pulling on the leash? Like, what are we doing in that situation? Again, those are scenarios where we teach you how to follow through. So your dog goes, oh, I have to listen in all the situations. So there's that reliability that's built in there. And that can be really difficult to do.
For sure. Saunders the goat.
I just saw some fun flashing
changing
happening.
The lights in the train station here. Saunders the goat asks, do you have
how cute that goat is.
Oh, yeah. Very cute goat. Do you have any recommendations for getting my roommate's husky border collie cross to stop chasing and pinning their cats?
Do you have any recommendations for getting my roommate's husky to stop chasing and pinning their cats? Yeah, I do. Supervision, prevention, correction. Those are the three things that you're going to focus on. You're not going to stop anything if you're not watching it happen. So if the dog is getting to rehearse being able to chase, we talked about this at the top of the show. If your dog is being allowed, and I use that word loosely because sometimes people are allowing it because they just literally don't know what else to do. But if they're rehearsing that behavior, that is a very rewarding behavior because they're chasing something. That prey drive gets ignited. So if that's happening without it being stopped or corrected, it's going to continue happening. You're never going to stop it.
Remember the first point, timing. Mm-hmm. Timing is crucial here.
That's right. So prevention is going to be key. Don't allow your dog to be in a situation where they can rehearse doing that. And then second is going to be training through it. And this is where the timing is going to be really important. I would have my dog on leash if the cats are around. I would maybe use some barricades so the dog can't just go and do it whenever they want to. And when the dog starts to go towards the cat, I would use a leave it command or something of that nature. And then I would redirect them with the leash, or I would get them to do a different job. I might work on a sit. I might work response to name. I might work on some focus while the cat is at a distance that is achievable for the dog to be successful. With the cat directly in front of a dog that is highly stimulated and distracted, that's probably not going to be a very successful starting point. I might work with the cats much further away, see if I can get my dog's focus with using motivators that they enjoy, food, toys, chase, whatever that might be, build up some value for myself over the cats, and then as time goes on, work things closer together. So there needs to be training involved, and when we're not actively training through the situation with good timing and consistency and information and all those things, I need to stop the rehearsal of that thing happening. And for a lot of times, it means that dogs who are making poor choices in the house or outside or wherever it's happening, their freedom is sacrificed until we have more training. And that right there is something that people, I have to put a leash on the dog in the house. Yes. Yes, you do.
Yeah. It's work, but it's worth it. Mm-hmm. Depending on the age and size
temporary.
of the dog, we recommend everyone who has a dog in training is trying to solve, anybody that has a dog in training, has a house line for their dog. And I'm not sure, depending on the age of the Husky Border Collie Cross, this thing, it will change the entire trajectory of your puppy training or dog training. This is such a simple, we've worked on this for ages, but this was the tool that I could tell when I was teaching puppy classes. I could tell if someone was using a house line. We used to suggest go to a dollar store, just get a cheap leash and then cut the loop off of it, which you can do. The problem is the hardware is pretty unpredictable when you go buy a cheap dollar store leash. So use a leash, use a house line, use something so that you can manage your roommate's dog in these kinds of situations.
Yeah, totally.
When we're talking about value, something we need to remember is to avoid testing. Now, avoiding testing is something that so many people do. I remember doing it when I was a student.
Doing it.
You don't even realize you're doing it. So, avoiding testing and increasing your value.
What is a test? What would we consider as a test?
Right, exactly. So, asking my dog to do something when I'm not sure if they really understand what that thing is.
Or if
they have a likelihood of failing, that's testing. If your dog learns
when you're
to sit,
risking the thing that you're asking them to do of not happening, you are putting them in a testing environment.
That's right, and that is the fastest way to devalue that word and to have your dog to be unsuccessful
and
then
allow them
go
to
back.
repeat failure.
Yeah, remember your dog. If they're running around in the backyard and you're calling their name and they're not responding, or they're intentionally acting crazy and running around in a circle, you're devaluing that word. They're thinking, now I hear that word, I'm running around, I'm free. There is no expectation. I have no accountability, which is something dogs can do, and some dogs will do. So it's really important that you're not testing your dog. In a situation like I just described, if I'm not sure if my dog's going to respond in the backyard, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to put a line on them, and then we can work through it. If I have some expectation that they're going to respond, maybe I can test it, but I've got that long line on, or I've got that leash on, so that if they're unsuccessful, we can train through it. I just thought of something. Lots of links. There's a Leave It video that might be good for our super chat. Saunders the Goat. Might be helpful for them when you talked about teaching a Leave It. It'd be great exercise to work on with that Husky Border Collie cross. Okay, let's talk about some real life training opportunities.
Let's talk about real life.
Yeah, dog training IRL. We intentionally choose a quiet environment, a location where you're going to be successful, because you are competing against everything in the world when you start training your dog. You need to build your value using some of those exercises, things that we talked about previously. But bringing that out into the real world can sometimes be challenging. And the good news is that there are all kinds of natural training opportunities that you're missing every single day.
Yeah.
Whether it is an emotional control exercise or a leash walking exercise, there's so many great natural training opportunities that you're probably missing. That it's funny, when we would talk to students and they struggled with their stay and they also struggled with their leash walking, maybe they struggled with something else. They figured out their stay, which is the most simple exercise to teach. But if they got a rock solid stay,
it is, but it isn't.
Well, that's true. Yeah, all of their skills would improve. So that one skill would make life a lot easier. This is where things like natural training opportunities can come in. If you can teach your dog to be thoughtful throughout the day with some of the things that you're naturally doing, you're going to see a dog who's now looking to you for information. Now, not rushing out the crate door. Let's talk maybe about 2 or 3 natural training opportunities.
Yeah, before we go into that, it's just funny. Sometimes I find this happens on train station days. You end up saying something that reminds me of a conversation that I literally had with somebody today. I was talking to a student this morning. She's struggling with her dog being really overstimulated and very high-minded in some situations and just not listening. It's an agility situation, but the root of what I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter what situation it's in. And I had asked her when was the last time that she had worked on just having the dog sit still for a longer period of time. And the dog's 2 years old now. And she's like, I hardly ever do that. And then I said, okay, well, when you're working your sit stays, how long do you think would be achievable for her if you just left her in a sit and then you just left and walked around and did a whole thing? How well do you think she would do? And then she was like, she would last 15 seconds, and then she'd be looking for something to do. And I said, well, there's your problem right there. You need to work on having this dog be able to sit quietly and calmly for a minute, 2 minutes. And she's going to struggle with that because the dog doesn't have good emotional control. The dog gets a feeling and goes, bah, I need to feel the feeling. And things like emotional control, like stays and sits and things like that, they seem boring, but if you have a dog that's excitable or needs a little bit more leadership, a little bit more structure, what's so great about this is it's black and white. You're either staying put or you're not. That's why it's easy to teach, is because there's no gray areas in some other exercises that we work with dogs. This is very clear, so it's a good way of establishing your leadership. But where could this type of behavior be helpful to work into your natural situations? It could be one of my favorite things to work on in terms of like sitting and being still, for example, would be like coming out of their crate in the morning. It could be so that if I let them out of their crate to take them out for a pee, they're not like jumping all over me and like biting at my arms and that type of thing. Come out, sit. Have the dog sit while they're sitting quietly. Put the leash on. Implementing my obedience training into my everyday situations so that I'm allowing my dog to make better choices. Maybe we go to the door. And again, if I open my front door, I don't want my dog to automatically think, barge and run out the front door. It could be dangerous. It could be, could be a number of things. We teach our dogs when we open the door, sit, be still. Wait for me to say, okay, and then we can go out together so that, again, I'm in control. After we've gone potty outside, I might work some recalls, encourage my dog to run back to me when I call them the first time. So, one of the things that sometimes I find people do is they have these great intentions to train their dogs, and they get the leash, and they get the bait bag, and they go out, and they spend their 5, 10, 20 minutes training their dog, and it goes well, and then they come home, and they hang their leash up, and they put their treats away, and then they don't realize, but they allow the dog to just be a total hooligan for the other, 10 hours of the day. Yeah. And they wonder why they're not making progress. When your dog is in training, when they're in the training phase of their life, your training needs to happen all the time. And you need to really be showing your dog how you want them to behave in all of the different situations, from your morning routine to your getting home from work routine to, when you're eating dinner with your family, to when you're watching TV at night, or whatever your thing is. What should your dog be doing in those situations? What would you like your dog to be doing in those situations? And you should be teaching them in those scenarios how they should behave so that eventually they can learn to do it on their own. So we need you to think about taking your training and applying it to your real life situations so that the dog gets good reinforcement for what to do. We always like using the example of 5 with the oven.
Yeah. That was a natural training opportunity. Mm-hmm. So 5 Alive in our puppy series.
He's our youngest dog.
Did we show that off in our puppy series?
I don't know.
In one of our puppy vlogs.
Maybe.
I think we did, but I can't remember. We taught our dog 5 Alive, who is a full of energy, bouncy, silly, mixed breed, full of energy. And when Kayl and I were preparing dinner, we didn't want him scuffling around underneath our feet, and we wanted some control. Is also
or being near the oven when we're taking hot things out.
It's also a great opportunity in our brain. You need these triggers in your life, these triggers that you're like, oh, now's my time to train. So we taught him to go lie on a bed when we put the pots on the stove, or anytime we started to get dinner things ready, he'd teach him to go lie on his bed. There's a whole series of steps that probably exist on the channel. Certainly, it's something we teach in our online programs about going to lie down. So we taught him to go lie on the bed over and over and over again, to a point where we pulled out our pots and things. He just went and laid down on the bed. It happened so quickly because of the repetition that we put into showing him what to do when this happens. If this
the value thing again,
then go lie down. Yeah, actually, I think we have might be go lie down on your bed is like an individual program on our store, which you could check out, McCannDogs.com. Check out our Bedstay, our online program.
It's a workshop.
Yeah, which you might like. Mm-hmm. It's really valuable, whether you like it or not. It's worth it for your dog. You talked a little bit. If this brings up another thought in my head, you talked a little bit about removing some freedoms, changing some things. Putting on having management, our long line, a leash, whatever the thing is. And I see this in the YouTube community more than from our students or people who are, we're working with, because I feel like our students, either we've shown them what this can look like at the end, or we've communicated here's why this is important. But so many people say I want my dog to be a dog, or I don't want to have to use a crate, or I don't want to have to use a line on him. I want him to run around free. I worry about whatever. But don't you
People are missing the point.
Well, don't you want more for your dog? You can get, if you put the time in now, spend this little bit, it's extra effort. There's no question about it. You're working hard to make sure they're getting great information. But what you get at the end of the next couple of months, because you've been working on it, is a dog who can go more places, do more things, is more confident.
Be around more people.
Absolutely.
Be around more dogs.
Oh my gosh.
Be part of the community.
Everything. Yeah, you just get to do so much more with them. And I was talking to someone who was visiting us couple weeks ago, I think.
Oh, where was she from? Minnesota?
I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway,
she said, it's amazing. After I trained my dog with you guys, I realized that once you have a trained dog, you'll never not train another dog. Like it changes so much. Mm-hmm. That's why this training is so important. When you're talking about the natural training opportunities, Kayl listed a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. But these are little changes you make in your day, but then you add structured training to that, and it just changes your experience with your dog. So I can't recommend it enough. And I was a skeptic at first. Long before I was a trainer at McCann Dogs, I was a student. And before I was a student, I was a guy who thought, like, I can figure it out.
I'll just buy this thing.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I tried to buy every solution, whether it was a collar or a harness or like a, something to stop them from jumping. Like, I just tried everything. And then I found out that just giving Deegan better information was exactly what I needed. And it was amazing. Anyway. Yeah. All to say, take advantage of these natural training opportunities. These are the things, having them wait before you put their food down. Great mental exercise. I'll never forget when your mom told me, this is when I first had Deegan. I ran into her at some point when I was in one of the classes, and she said, and I was talking to her about taking Deegan for a walk, how she was crazy. She said, what if you just asked her to sit before you clipped her leash on or collar? And I'm like, oh.
You feel silly for not thinking that yourself.
Totally. But I mean, I'm insisting that she sort of, be mindful. She sit down, then she gets the collar clipped on. That's enough of a reward. It was enough of a reward for her. And then I could step outside the door without her being like completely nuts and crazy and bouncing around. These are the kind of tweaks that can make such a difference in your dog training. And this is the kind of stuff we talk about in our online programs, some of the wins that you can get.
Yeah, our online programs and our in-person programs. And I think if you're watching us from, is it black? Is it supposed to be black?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can just take it off then, because now I think
I like weird. This is fun.
Oh, okay. He thinks it's fun. Something that I think is important, and if you're watching us today, you probably stumbled upon one of our YouTube videos, and we have great information on our YouTube videos. There's lots of training ideas. There's lots of things you can do that can help you train at home. But I think the biggest difference between our actual programs, whether it's online or whether it's in person, is that you actually have us looking and watching you and giving you feedback. Because I think sometimes we read the comments on our videos, and a lot of times we're like, I tried this, but it's not working for my dog. Right. Whatever, I want to do it this way. And for whatever reason, the complaining comments, that's the voice that I imagine that they have. But anyways, a lot of the time that happens because that person's timing's off a little bit, or maybe it needs to be tweaked slightly different for their dog. And, we know that there's not one way to train a dog. And one of the things that we want to be able to do when we actually work with you in our programs is learn about your dog, learn about you, and then be able to tweak things like the progressions, how fast you're going through them, how you need to proof your dog, what your timing is like. Are you practicing the right way? Are you holding your body the right way? There's so many times we think we're doing things right, and we make small tweaks with our students, and it's like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden things are turning around. So if you want to get more help and you want a little bit more guidance or support, we have especially our online community, the support and community that we have between other students that are taking the program. People are just having issues and asking the same questions that you have, and then you get to see all the feedback that the instructors are giving them along with you. So we have Puppy Essentials are for puppies that are under 4 months old, and we work on exercises that are appropriate for that age range. And then for dogs older than 4 months, we have our life skills program where we're working on, never guess it, but more life skills types of things that are more appropriate for that age gap. So again, our YouTube channel, awesome. But if you want to get a little bit more specifics and feedback from, our great team of instructors, I definitely suggest that you check out the program. And if you're a local person and you're curious about us, come and watch our classes. Come in and check out the facility, meet the trainers. We'll show you around. You can sit in, you can watch classes. It's great.
Anybody that's watching tonight, check out McCannDogs.com. Mm-hmm. You can go and do virtual tour of our facility. Yeah. I know, it's a differentiator. When I arrived to McCann Dogs the first time, I didn't know what I was to expect. Yeah. And I arrived and I thought, like, this whole place is for
Yeah.
dog training.
I don't want to toot my horn too much, but I think we might have the largest dog training facility, definitely in Canada.
Oh, for
maybe even in the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty impressive.
It's pretty cool.
And here's the reality: when we're talking about some of these things for you at home, McCann Dogs has trained more than 100,000 dogs in the building. Like, it's not like we've trained
Way more than that,
a couple of Westies, a few, training Walker Hounds. Yeah, all breeds, all ages, all sorts of things. So anyway.
All people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the hard part. Training dogs is the easy part.
The people is definitely the hard part, but it's also the fun part.
We need to talk about proofing and the mistakes that you are making when it comes to proofing with your dog and your dog training. And this is all about finding the right level of challenge for your dog, because dogs are so situational, and so often people will, and I've seen this before, but they will, have a great recall somewhere. And maybe we talked a little bit earlier about, your dog responding to their name in the backyard. A backyard's a pretty safe place, great place to train, great place to, put in some reps. But then they go to the park and they take their dog off leash, and the dog is gone. They just run like a maniac. They disappear into the bush or whatever. You need to really understand that your dog is situational. So when you introduce your dog to a new area or a new environment, let's say you're working on your leash walking training, great place to start, in the hallway. Then you move to the driveway or whatever. You go down to your lobby, or you go out to the parking lot, or maybe it's, whatever. These mini steps are so important. That's the kind of proofing. You need to be successful before you up the challenge. And we talk a lot about the 3 Ds of dog training: duration, distance, and distraction. And it's so important that you carefully ramp up these one at a time.
One at a time.
So if you're getting great leash walking training at home, and then you decide you're going to go down the street, and that's a new environment. So, I'm increasing the distraction a little bit. And then I decide, it's going pretty well. Why don't we walk all the way to the store and back? Now you've just increased the distraction and the distance. Really difficult for your dog.
You really have to think about whether you're ready for that. And you know whether you're ready for that based on how successful it is.
100%.
And not that they should be doing everything perfectly, but, when a dog is going through a proofing phase, I'm actually okay if my dog makes a few mistakes here and there so that I can redirect. But if the dog makes a mistake and I try to fix it, and then, I'm not seeing, a longer stint of success, and the dog just keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over again, then that's information to me that I'm probably overfacing my dog, or I haven't practice enough with maybe slightly easier distractions before trying to combat what's in front of me. So again, you don't need to be picture perfect, but what you do need to be able to do is make your adjustments, and then the dog goes, got it. And then, you're good to go for a little bit until you have to make a few more adjustments. That's okay. But if the failures are constant and you're getting frustrated and there's a lot of, no, stop that, just totally giving up because you're like, you just can't take it anymore, you're probably not putting your dog in the best situation. And that's also really disheartening for you as well. Dog training is a lot of work, and I'm not saying that it's all sunshine and roses. But it should be enjoyable. It should be something that builds your relationship with your dog, that you're having fun together. That's one of the things that's going to make your dog like you more and want to do things for you more, is because of the interactions that you have are positive. Think about like some of the best teachers, human teachers in your life. You are more comfortable, and you learn better from people who are giving you good information
and
clear information, and they're kind about it. They're, not blowing smoke up your butt, but they're, telling you what you need to know in a kind way. We're going to be the same way for our dogs as well. It's not really very productive if I'm just no all of the time. It's also not productive for me just to let them do whatever they want, because I don't really want to put any restrictions on them. It's important that I have clarity.
That's an important conversation that you need to have with yourself and your family. To be a great leader, you need to really understand what your dog is capable of, what their weaknesses are, what are the things that will challenge them so much that they're likely to break, fail. That's being a great leader, because you're starting to understand also understanding what motivates them. It could be as simple as like changing the treat style, or maybe your dog loves a tug. You know, we for our recall exercise, we love using like a fuzzy ball tug or a puppy tug at the ending, because if you're teaching your dog a recall, you want them to really understand that getting to you is such a valuable thing. So in this instance, when we're proofing some of these skills, if it's a food reward we're going to do with our dog, we're going to get the high value stuff. You know, the really good, the cut up steak from last night's dinner, the cooked chicken, you know, whatever your dog loves, maybe our tuna treats that we talk about here on the channel. Or we can also use a toy to really make it exciting. Thank goodness, I hate the smell of tuna. But, you know, this is what I really want you to be thinking about. As you're increasing the level of difficulty, as you're proofing some of these skills, your dog needs to understand that this word that you've been using in the house and on the driveway means the same thing everywhere.
Yes.
Every time you say it. The McCann method is based around getting the results you want the first time, every time. And the only fair way to do that with your dog is to set them up to be successful and then reward them copiously when they make the right choice. You know, the steps that you're taking, it's crucial. Someone mentioned earlier they've got a adolescent dog, and they said like the puppy stage was tough. The adolescent stage is way harder, because you need to like double down on, here are my expectation, here are the rules, and I know we've given you a little bit more freedom, or I know we've sort of like backed off of training for the last couple of months. We're back in training mode. You know, you really need to communicate with that dog, with your dog, that the rules are the same. You know, the rules haven't changed, and you might have to find out new ways to reward them. You know, you might need to figure out, how can I set up this dog to be successful? That's an important part of you being a great leader for them.
This particular topic that we're covering tonight really is quite deep. And I know sometimes when people have struggles with their dogs, they want to just know the answer to their one thing, and they want to know what they need to do to fix their one thing. But I really, you know, if you've stuck around this long, thank you. But I hope that means that you are really thinking about your dog training and the things that you need to do in a big picture way, because I really think, honestly, today's train station absolutely needs to be a podcast, because the ideas and the big picture things that we're talking about today can literally, if you really can understand what we're saying to you, you can fix all of your problems. So all of the things that we're talking today, you could take nipping and biting, plunk it into what we're talking about, and learn how to fix it. You could take walking on leash, think about all the things we talk about today, and you could fix it. It doesn't really matter, but I know sometimes if you're a really new trainer or a newer dog owner, or you're, you know, just thinking very specifically about things, I know that today's content maybe has seemed a little like, what are they even talking about? But I encourage you to either listen it again, or ask more questions, or keep watching some videos, because truly the things that we cover today, timing, value, training, and natural training opportunities, proofing, understanding not to overface your dog, these are all things that people are doing all the time. And we said this at the beginning of the show. They're doing it all the time, and they don't even know. So even if it's that, you know, for, you know, as you move forward with your dog, you're a little more accountable, you're a little more aware of like, wait, oh gosh, I've just repeated myself 10 times and I did nothing about it, then we're on the right track with you. You know, if you make some shift changes with your dog at home in terms of their structure or their freedom in the house, their ability to make poor choices, if you can adapt that a little bit, you might start to see immediate positive changes in your dog. But again, I know that today's topic was a bit like, I find sometimes it's easier for people to follow when we have like a specific topic like walking on leash, because people can just have an easier time applying it. But I honestly prefer talking about things like this because it's big picture thinking. And if you learn a little more about dog training in general, you learn a little bit more how to communicate with your dog in a way that they get it, you can literally train them to do anything that you want to do. Basic things like just being a good family dog, or like way more complicated things, you know, like dog sports and all of that stuff. But, you know, I really urge you to let a lot of the stuff that we talked about sink in. because it really could make a world of difference with something that you could be frustrated with at the moment.
You said something that really struck a chord with me, and I feel this because I experienced this, when I found training, when I realized the value of training.
So curious to see what it is.
Well, you said, if you're still here, thank you, but you're the kind of student that we want.
Yeah.
People that are invested. They're not just floating around trying to find information from a bunch of different places, but you're like, I have this dog. I want more for them. Let's solve these challenges, or let's set this this new family member up to be successful. So I reached out. One of our moderators said we're offering a coupon for our online training for everybody who's in tonight's chat. So I'm going to drop it in the...
Is it for online classes?
For online training, yeah. For our online training classes, because I know a majority of people were from all over the world.
Yeah.
But because, you're exactly the kind of person we love to help to be successful, there's a coupon for $30 off our online training courses, our life skills course or our puppy essentials course. So take that coupon, copy and paste, and check out McCannDogs.com.
I do want to say too, for those of you who are thinking about online, because I think sometimes when you think online dog training, you're thinking, well, how do I train a dog online without being in a class with other dogs?
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the reasons why we McCann Dogs took so long to come out with an online program is because we had the same concerns coming from somebody. Our business has been around for a long time. We excel at in-person dog training classes, and one of the things that we wanted to be able to do is provide the same level of support. We teach, what we try to do here at McCann's is we teach you how to train your dog. You don't send your dog to us. We don't take your dog and train it for you. We teach you how to train the dog. So the online programs is not like watch a video and then try to figure out how to do it. Yes, you're going to watch videos, but you're going to get training challenges. You're going to have email access to instructors. We have a online platform where you can ask questions to instructors and they will watch videos and our responses. The longest you would have to wait would be 24 hours to get a response, but most of the time we have instructors in those support groups all day long. So if it's Wednesday at 8:00 and you're like, this dog is freaking driving me crazy, jump in the support group and be like, help, and we will help you.
Yeah.
There's so much support. It's very different than what a lot of people
100%.
imagine.
Yeah. So I'm excited for you to get this opportunity. Here's the catch. 24 hours. That coupon code is available until November 1st. So tomorrow night is
then it won't
October
be Halloween
31st.
anymore.
That's right. So it's available for 24 hours. I hope to see you in our programs. And I love the fact that we're still having this conversation about some of the most important topics that you could face in your dog training.
And if you want to learn more, just email onlinetraining@mccanndogs.com and then we can talk to you individually about it.
Absolutely. Now, do we have anything else you'd like to add?
Go Jays.
Go Blue Jays, go. Tomorrow night, game 6, I guess.
Big baseball fans over here if you didn't notice.
We're excited. Instructor Aaron says 48 hours, so expires November 1st. Okay. Excited to have you as part of the team. I hope you were able to get some value from tonight. I hope you had that aha moment. When you're learning something, watching something, you're like, oh man, that's exactly my problem, or that's exactly what I've been doing. I hope you've had that moment tonight to help you moving forward with your dog training. I want a huge thank you to Lots of Links Luton and Instructor Aaron for joining us tonight. We had some new Heart Dog members. I want to thank those guys as well for paying our tickets down here to the train station. If you have a dog who is noise sensitive, who gets a little bit of separation anxiety when you leave the house, we actually created a music channel on YouTube and music albums specifically for you. So check out McCann Dogs Music on Apple Music or Spotify. And at the end of tonight's show, YouTube's gonna ask you if you want to go check out our 24-hour live stream that's built specifically for dogs to create more sound in the environment, with relaxing beats like pace.
Relaxing beats.
Super. It is very relaxing. If it's on in the house when we're at home, I can fall asleep.
I have fallen asleep to it many times.
Anyway. Excited to have you here on the channel. I hope to see you again soon. Hit that subscribe button. And otherwise, with all of the teaching, all of the training, all of the things we've talked about tonight, the rest, my friends, that is up to you.